Alright, so for the next couple of videos, we're going to be talking about human transformation, conscious human transformation, and we're going to be focusing on this because to understand the universe that we exist in, or exist as a part of, we have to understand change itself. And when you study yourself, you realize very quickly that change and transformation is built into the system, and we can consciously come to understand these forms of transformations in order to transform ourselves into something newer and more possibly improved as well. And so, simply just looking at a human from conception to fetus to baby to child to teenager and beyond, we're constantly changing and transforming into something newer and better, usually. And so, what we're doing by talking about these states of transformation is to tap into this natural force and consciously transcend ourselves into a higher state of being, into something more improved, okay? Because that's what the goal of this kind of conscious transformation is about. It's about the realization of a more improved individual. It's about the realization that you can actually do this, and that it's where you're going to find a lot of meaning and purpose in your life, okay? And this is really what the study of alchemy was trying to understand. It was trying to understand human transformation, transforming the human into something more improved, more better, okay? It was never really about trying to physically turn lead into gold. That's never what it was trying to do. That was just to try to keep the church off its back when they were doing this study of the human soul. And so what we're talking about with alchemy, I'm not going to really talk about it that much. We're just talking about solvet, coagula, dissolve, and coagulate, okay? This is dissolving, breaking down, or parsing ourselves into separate units that we can study and start to map out and understand at a more deeper level. We do this by simply allowing ourselves time for introspection, meditation, and self-observation through journaling, okay? We explore our mind, okay? We go deeper than our ego. We go deeper than ourselves, our self-doubt, and we look at what's underneath, okay? What's underneath is the code to our programming. It's our internal programming, the why that controls our behavior, controls our everyday routines, our habits, and how we perceive reality itself. So it's actually controlling a whole huge chunk of everything that's occurring around us, all right? And that's where we need to start paying attention. And this is why the mind and mining, why those two words sound so similar, because that's what we do with the mind. We mine the mind for the nuggets of gold, for the internal programs that are controlling our behavior, that are controlling our reality, okay? And so when your internal programming is made conscious through introspection first, we observe them, okay? We observe them as the observer. We don't judge them the moment that we start to see these internal programs start to expose themselves to us, okay? We don't judge them because judging is a higher order mental process. It's going to collapse the mind shaft. You're going to lose what you're looking at in a very unbiased way. But when you start judging these internal programs, what occurs is you start to look at them and you go, oh, that's not right. That's not what I actually truly think. You start to judge them as either good or bad or this or that. That's not what you want to do starting out. You just want to get these things to pen and paper, just to look at them in a very unbiased, observational way, okay? As if you're studying them as opposed to judging them, okay? Because once the code is extracted through journaling and introspection, we can become, once it's extracted, once it's written down, then we can judge these internal programs, okay? And determine which programs are of value for us and which ones are not serving us very well, okay? And the internal programs that don't serve you well, you can burn those away. We're going to talk about how to do that, okay? And this, really what we're talking about is a simple motif of the phoenix, okay? The phoenix, when it dies, it doesn't actually die. It burns away its former self, right? And then it creates an egg for itself. And the egg represents the crucible by which the distractions of the outer world are completely ignored. You shut yourself out from the outer world because you have this egg that surrounds you from the outer world. And so the only thing that you can focus on is within. You can only focus on yourself. All of the focus turns inward, because that's where we have to start paying attention, because that's what's controlling everything in our reality, in our lives, are these internal programs, okay? So that's where we have to focus, and it is a crucible because it's going to be painful, and it has to be painful, okay? Because you're transforming into something new. Think about like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. If you've ever seen the inside of a cocoon, when a caterpillar is transforming into a butterfly, it's a horrifying thing to see. And that's because there's a massive transformation that's occurring. And we need this suffering, we need this pain to occur, because that's what's going to give us meaning in our lives. The meaning gives us purpose, and then the purpose will ensue, or will create the happiness that will ensue from the purpose, from overcoming these challenges, overcoming the realization that you've had these internal programs with you for an extremely long time, and that some of them are not serving you very well. In fact, many of them are probably causing you to have a lot more failure in your life than you're willing to admit when you first observe them, okay? And so, we burn all of these negative internal programs down until we find some worthwhile programs that are in there that are serving us well, that we know are serving us well. And then we build from those internal programs, okay? But it's very possible that when you do this process, you may find nothing of worth or of value for you, okay? Well, that's okay too. Just burn them all down. Don't use any of them. If none of them are serving you very well, that's okay. Because when these things get burned down, what's created is this detritus, this blackening, this really, honestly, it's fertilizer for a new Eden to grow for you, okay? It's all about purifying through destruction, okay? And so, we burn away our negative internal programming with the practice of atonement, which is something that we discussed earlier. And that just means that we truly and honestly accept our authentic selves, our authentic programming for what it is. We apologize for the wrongs that these internal programs have engendered in our lives. We figure out what the right programs are to plant the seeds of the proper internal programs that we actually want to sprout and grow in our lives, and we absolve to run on those programs next time, okay? And so from here, we coagulate or integrate our transformation and conscious realizations into as many facets of our lives as we possibly can in order to permanently cement our new refined self in our newly formed reality, okay? And so what this is habit formation, it's habit breaking, this is meditation, this is growing up, this is awakening to higher levels of realization, okay? This is not a thing that's meant to be done quickly. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme, okay? This can take many months, this can take many years to occur. You will stagnate throughout this time. You will regress at times. But as long as you keep working at it, you will see minor positive results, not just financially, but in your relationships, in business, in your life as a whole. Things will start making more sense as you continue to pay attention to yourself, as you continue to go through this crucible. And honestly, it's fine that it takes a long time, because this is all there is to do with ourselves. Okay? This is all that is occurring. Conception, fetus, baby, child, teenager, adult. You're just transforming. You're changing. And you can consciously engage in this process and transform yourself into a more improved individual through conscious growth and transformation practices, or you're going to have unconscious stagnation and confusion, but you're still going to have change and transformation occur, but at a much slower pace, and at a pace that maybe is going to cause you to miss out on certain opportunities that could make your life more enjoyable. Because this is really the pursuit in our lives that's going to ensue or create feelings of happiness for ourselves. And that's the primary reason why we do it, because when we do go through this process, this meaningful process of suffering, of experiencing the pain, of realization, of these internal programs and what these internal programs are doing to us on a day-to-day basis, it's going to hurt. And we go through this process because that's what's going to make us happy. That's what's going to create meaning in our lives. That's what's going to give us purpose in our lives. All right? And so, all things of any value will cost you your time and attention. And that's why we spend our time and attention on growth and improvement. Okay? Because regarding success, there's really many transformations that you can make. But for the purposes of what we're going to talk about in the next couple of videos, we're going to focus on one kind of transformation. And this is the transformation of the individual before they took control of their internal programming to an individual that does take control of his or her internal programming, that spends a lot of time and attention on their internal programming. This is a transformation because you're transforming from a programmable automaton. This is the standard baseline model, like right off the assembly belt human being, to a human being this is transforming into the human being that becomes basically the programmer, the wizard, the coder, the storyteller, the author, the authoritarian, or the sovereign of his or her own life. Because you're becoming the judge, jury, and executioner, okay? The executioner, to execute, to run a program, or to put into effect. That's what an app is. It's an application because you're applying the app. You're executing the app, okay? Execute command orders. All right. And in order to put something into effect, you have to know the cause, the why behind the effect, and that's our internal programming. So that's where we have to start. And so, in summary for this video, in order to be successful, an individual must transform from an individual who doesn't focus much of its time on his internal programming to an individual that almost exclusively focuses his time and attention on his or her internal programming if you're to have any hope of true holistic success in your life. Because it's the programming that controls our habits, and our habits control our current state of affairs, and it controls our reality ourselves, okay? And it will be a war because your current probably faulty internal programming already exists, all right? It's already running. We're already executing based on these programs. These things exist. Just because they don't have a living body that you can like physically look at doesn't mean that they don't exist. They are you, okay? So that's what this internal programming is. And so by its very nature, by living, okay, it's going to resist any change that infringes on its right to exist, okay? They resist destruction. They resist decomposition because they're living things, all right? And that's what living things do. And that's kind of the tragedy of life, is that life just wants to live. It doesn't want to unexist, okay? But at the end of the day, you know, destruction is inevitable, okay? And so I want you to think about the motif of the hostile brothers here, because if you choose to transform, to change, you're going to have to go to war with yourself, with your former, right now, your current self, and this self is older. Okay? It's more hardened. It's more immoral. It's more impure. And it's you. It's your brother, okay? It's your Cain. It's your Loki. It's your Set. All right? And this entity certainly doesn't want to be burned away. Would you want to be burned away? No. So it's going to fight, and it's going to try to survive, because it doesn't want to become the detritus of a new thing that is not it, okay? So you're going to have to beat him, and then accept him as your former self, and acknowledge its existence, love it, and then grow with it as well. But it has to see you as the sole sovereign in your new state of being, okay? And then guess what? You get to do it all over again, because once you become this new transformed individual, you see that there's a higher potentiality there as well. So you can jump into this crucible all over again and act like the phoenix, being immortal, burning away all the detritus, coming back as an egg, focusing on your inner self, and doing it all over again. There is no end to this transformation. We do it because it brings us happiness, and there's more meaning and more purpose in our lives when we're focusing on it, okay? And so That's what we're going to talk about in the next couple of videos. We're going to pay particularly close attention to what I mean by internal programming, these axioms, these rules that we live by, these rules that start to form our reality. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. So I'll see you in the next video.